Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you why I started supplementing. So why I started giving my son Hugo formula alongside breast milk. I'm just gonna preface this whole video by saying that I think what you feed your baby is a very, very personal decision and personal choice. And it's safe to assume that all mothers are always just trying to do their best. It's always hard for me to find to judge any mom for any decisions they make because everyone's experience is so subjective and everyone makes the decisions that they think are going to be best for baby. And that's exactly what we did and was such a huge driving force behind why we switched from exclusively breastfeeding to formula. So why did we start supplementing with formula? The first answer is because I hated breastfeeding. I hated it. I know that that is such a taboo thing to say and such an unpopular opinion, but I've always been really honest and open with you guys. And if this helps anyone out there and you're feeling alone in disliking breastfeeding, just know that that is one of the major reasons why we started supplementing with formula, was because I really had never ever enjoyed the breastfeeding journey, the breastfeeding process. So I'll give you a little backstory on our feeding journey. My son, when he was first born, I wanted to try to exclusively breastfeed him, and I had a lot of support. My aunt is a lactation consultant. Best friend Aaliyah was our doula, so she was there at the birth and then she came the next day in the hospital, and both of them, my aunt and Aaliyah, both tried really hard to help me with breastfeeding. But like most new moms, I did find it kind of difficult. I had a really hard time feeding off of my right side, I had a really hard time feeding off my left side, so I was exclusively for the first 24 hours feeding off my right side. Even though I say feeding, he wasn't really latching on properly, especially in the first 24 hours. But when my aunt checked his mouth, he didn't seem to have any sort of tongue tie or lip tie. But this nipple ended up getting super chapped and I got a cracked nipple, so then he was exclusively breastfeeding off this side for the second day, and then we figured out that I have pretty flat nipples and I was going to need some assistance, so I started using nipple shields, and those were a godsend. Those were amazing, and I still to this day wear nipple shields. Some women are able to transition out of nipple shields and just sort of use them as a temporary piece of assistance for breastfeeding, but because my nipples are so flat, it quickly became apparent that that was going to be something a necessity. I was going to need that for breastfeeding. And I just found breastfeeding from the get-go very difficult, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, very, very difficult. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. And I didn't enjoy the sensation. I didn't enjoy my milk coming in. I didn't enjoy the act of breastfeeding, and I even sort of hesitate saying that out loud now because it's such, I don't know, it's something that is so sacred to so many women and so special, and I believe that. I do believe that it is very special and is a great way to bond with your baby. However, like with anything, some people enjoy it and some people don't. And I had all these voices in the back of my head this is so sacred and you should be enjoying this, and I don't understand why you don't like this, and this is the best thing for your baby, so you have to do it. You have no choice. And I think that also contributed to the mental strife that I was under during the first few months. And honestly, I was just counting down the days to when I could start supplementing with formula. Now that sounds a little bit silly because you can start giving your baby formula the second they come out of the womb. And really, how you feed your baby should be your choice. But I felt really guilty for wanting to stop breastfeeding and really guilty for wanting to give my baby formula. And honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, I wish that I was a stronger person, and I wish I could have, decided right away, no, you know what, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not doing it, or started supplementing sooner, but I didn't, and that's okay. But yeah, looking back, I can't say that I ever really enjoyed it. Right now, Bo's 7 months old, and we obviously are supplementing, and I'm breastfeeding him. I'm feeding him right before he goes to sleep, and when he wakes up in the middle of the night, right before naps and stuff too. So it's very minimal. But I still can't say that I enjoy it. It's still not something that I love. And I wish with every fiber of my being it was, because I think it would make my life a little easier. Definitely wouldn't be quite as expensive as the ordering of formula. But the reality is, and I have to accept it, the reality is that I've never enjoyed it. So what ended up happening was Hugo was gaining weight, like feedings were going great, waking was great. I was just getting the feeling that he wasn't getting enough food from me. And also, to be completely honest with you, and this was around the 3.5 month mark, I was just done. I was done with the stress that, and I'm sure a lot of this was self-placed and self-created by me, but I was done with the stress of breastfeeding. I am, and you know, as I talk about this, a lot of this has to do with me, which is okay. I seem to be someone who likes a lot of control, and there's a certain element of letting go with breastfeeding, and there's a certain element that you can't control. And a huge part of that is that you don't really know how much milk you're producing. And that was really, really hard for me. I am such like a cerebral person, and almost like type A, I guess, where I needed to see, and I wanted to see how much Hugo was getting at each feeding. And with breastfeeding, you can't really know. You can't really tell. I mean, you get sort of an idea after a few months, and you pump, and you kind of see like, okay, like I produce maybe 3 ounces on this side, 1 ounce on this side. And that's what was sort of happening. And I think a big part of it, besides me just like feeling so over breastfeeding, and it all sort of ties together, is that this side stopped producing milk. He just stopped latching on this side. And what ended up happening was, because he stopped really latching on this side, and it's sort of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. He didn't love his latch on this side, and so this side started not producing quite as much milk. Or was it that this side had stopped producing a lot of milk, and thus he just wasn't feeding quite as much on this side? Do you know what I mean? We sort of started spiraling a little bit, because when he was hungry, and you guys know, like when an infant is hungry, when a baby is hungry, you want to just feed them as fast as possible, because at least with Hugo, he gave off the appearance that like he needed milk right in that second. I would automatically want to feed him on this side, on the boob that like had milk and was producing a lot of milk. Eventually this boob just stopped producing milk. So from that point on, and even to this day, I'm only feeding him off this side. So obviously he wasn't getting as much milk as he needed. He was still gaining weight, which was great, but I knew that that wasn't sustainable. So that, coupled with just my disdain for breastfeeding in general, I hated the feeling, I hated pumping. It's a bit of a gradual decision. We're gonna start supplementing. I think it didn't happen all at once, but it was definitely one of those situations where like we gave him 1 bottle one day to see, did that. Oh, and also sleep was a big part of it too. We thought, Hugo's never been a great sleeper. He's always woken up at least anywhere from like 3 to 7 times during the night. And so we thought maybe giving him formula right before bed would fill up his tummy a little bit more and keep him sleeping for longer. Can't say that that like really helped or really worked, but the joy that I got giving him a bottle, giving him formula, was unlike anything else that I had experienced. And I experienced the joy and the euphoria of that like mommy-infant bonding while I was giving him a bottle versus when I was breastfeeding him. And one of the real reasons I wanted to make this video was because I wanted to let you mommies out there know, especially if you're expecting or if you have a little one and you're in a similar experience as me, that's okay. That's an okay feeling to have. I think moms who give their babies formulas are shamed into thinking that it's such a terrible thing, or like you can't possibly be bonding with your baby as well as the mommies who are breastfeeding. But I'm here to tell you that is such a myth. That is such a myth. I got more joy out of giving Hugo a bottle because I didn't have all the other distractions, right? Like my nipples weren't aching. I wasn't dealing with the very uncomfortable sensation of my milk coming in. I wasn't worrying. I wasn't like totally in my head worrying about, is he getting enough milk? Is he not getting enough milk while he's at my boob? Thus hindering like any sort of bonding experience. Giving him the bottle, it just made me feel so much more comfortable and made me feel so much more at ease knowing like, hey, okay, he's getting 6 ounces of milk right now. And if he doesn't finish it, I can see exactly how much is left. Happiness that I felt giving him a bottle, the happiness I felt giving him formula, took away all of that crazy stress that I had been putting on myself while breastfeeding him. So in case you were wondering, we are giving him the Similac Pro Advanced. Now, finding the right formula for your baby is like a whole other topic, and I'm not even gonna get into that. I will just briefly say that we tried a bunch of different formulas, and Hugo was also a pretty gassy baby, and for a little while I thought I was gonna have to give him like a pro-sensitive formula. I was giving him the Similac Pro Sensitive or like Pro Total Comfort. I can't remember what it was called. But then we started giving him this and he seemed to really like it. He wasn't having any tummy issues. So I continued purchasing this one and we really like it. So I will link this one down below in case this is a formula that you want to explore or look into. If there's any advice I could give to myself, especially for like hopefully the next baby, it's you have to do what works for you. And so many people are going to, hopefully with the best of intentions, give you their advice and their expertise. But again, like you in your heart of hearts know what is right for you and your baby. And sometimes you have to put your sanity and your mental health and your physical health first. Otherwise you can't take care of your babies, right? Like you have to make sure you take care of yourself. That way you're in a really great space to take care of your family. So that is why we started supplementing. That is why we started giving Hugo formula. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any formula breastfeeding questions, you can leave them down in the comments or feel free to share your own experience. I feel like we've built like a really supportive, respectful community of mommies, and so it'll be really fun to kind of share all of our own experiences. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you all really soon. Bye guys.